In the last session, for those of you that have followed me over, the recording is recording the screen and it's recording, it's recording voices. So if you don't wish to be recorded, just don't speak. Ask your friend to speak for you or hold up a sign or something, okay? So we're about to talk about PowerApps versus InfoPath, and it's going to be the battle between the up-and-comer and the heavyweight champion of the world, which is InfoPath, right? Whoopsie. Hit the wrong button almost. Okay. So my name is Nikki Carter. I work for Microsoft. I am the modern workplace technical strategy lead for worldwide. Yes, I'm very new, so I'm still, even though I just said it last session, I'm still struggling with it this session. I just realized I forgot to put the mic on. Can you guys hear me? But I'm gonna put the mic on just so you get a little bit of extra volume. Hopefully not too much extra. But I used to work for a Microsoft partner, and I actually was a Microsoft partner before I joined Microsoft. You can see all of my street cred here and all of my adventures. I have a few books. I do a lot of technical speaking. I came from being a developer, 2 flavors of, or maybe 3 flavors of being a developer. And all of that has led me here today. So if you want to reach out to me, here's my information. I'm also going to show the slide again at the end. And my slides are already in the app. But I'm recording, and I recorded my last session too, so if you missed my last session, hopefully I didn't mess up the recording, because I did that before. I recorded this whole session, and then I blew it away by mistake. Hopefully I don't do that this time. But I will upload the slides again by tomorrow morning with the link for the recording today, okay? So if there is another session that you also wanted to see, you could leave. I'm not saying that I want you to leave. I'm just saying, I know there's a lot of goodness during all of these hours, right? So sometimes you might be like, I'm torn. Don't need to be torn. You'll get the recording. Especially for this one, I've recorded it 3 times already, okay? So you're already going to be covered with this one, although it's going to be a little bit different. So some housekeeping. Thank the sponsors and the hosts. It takes a lot to put these types of events together and a lot of money to put them together. But I also want to thank you guys as well for attending, because this conference does cost money. And I'm sure it wasn't a little bit of money. It was a pretty penny for you as well. Keep your learning going. I encourage you to join your user groups. Now, I came from the Baltimore, D.C. area, so I still have those up there. But there is a user group here, Boston Office 365 user group. I encourage you to join. They're on Meetup, Eventbrite, and they have their own website as well. Just do a search for it. Start going to the meetings, because learning in the cloud is an ongoing thing. If you don't keep learning, you become like the dinosaur. And everybody knows what happened to the dinosaur, right? It's not here anymore. You don't want that to be you, okay? SPTechEvents.org is a good place for you to go. Like, if you can't afford to shell out whatever, $2,000, I don't know how much this conference costs, but you can't afford to shell that out, then go to SPTechEvents.org. There are a bunch of free ones all over the world. There's Sharepoint Fest. I forgot to put SPTechCon on here, but there's SPTechCon. Cold365.community. They do a lot of online learning, and they have free online conferences. I think the next one is the Flow conference. And if you wanted to like have access to those recordings after the conference is over, you pay like $50. So it's like a nominal fee if you wanted access to those things later. And there's the Microsoft Tech community as well. There are other places, but those are like the big ones. If you have any questions, feel free to holler them out. I've been doing training and speaking for a long time now, so I'm used to people having, I did turn it on. Yeah, I did turn it on. I'm used to people having questions and asking them in the moment. I might take a second to finish my breath, but I will get to you as soon as possible because I'd really rather you get your question out in the moment while you're thinking about it instead of later you're like, oh crap, what was I going to ask? Because nobody writes their questions down anymore, right? That's paper. Paper is so, 80s. I always have to give this disclaimer. Please notice it says, please don't hit me, okay? This is a disclaimer. The reason why I'm giving this disclaimer is because Microsoft technology is constantly changing. I'm demoing in the cloud. The cloud is always moving. Something could change, like literally, while I'm doing something. If I start like, oh crap, where is that button? Please give me a moment, okay? Also, it makes it really hard to keep my slides up to date. I used to do training material, and I gave up after there was one time where I was like making screenshots, and buttons started appearing. And then I made another screenshot, and another button appeared. After about 3 times, I was like, you know what? No more training material. I'm not doing it. So my slides may have a little bit of an inconsistency, especially the further out we get from this presentation. Please excuse that, as well as during the recording. So this is a beginning course, okay, or beginning session. We're gonna go a little deep in there. We're gonna kind of stick our toe in there, maybe wiggle it around a little bit, but we're not swimming. Okay, if we need swimming lessons, there's some things that I can show you, but I don't do PowerApps as deeply anymore. And we have like the PowerApp Maven here. Yes, I'm talking to you. Yes, you know who you are. Just wave to the people, wave to the people. Get April. April can definitely help you a lot deeper than I can. I know a lot of the basics, especially since I came from InfoPath development. Okay, but we're going to go through a lot of those basics. So let's get ready to rumble. All right, InfoPath, heavyweight champion of the world. Reason why I say that is because InfoPath is in like everything, especially if you're government. It's still deeply entrenched in government. Did you ever notice how Microsoft came out with an end date for InfoPath? And then they were like, oh, psych, 3 more years. That's because government was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? What you doing? You better not. We need more time. Government's slow. They need more time. But they got so many forms. It's so many forms. It's going to take a minute. And that's because InfoPath was heavily used. It started as a thing in 2003. The last version of InfoPath that was created was in Office 2013. Now you cannot download InfoPath as far as downloading it when you get like Office 365 and you go to the home page, you click the little button where it says you can download your software and you download Office. If you notice, it doesn't have InfoPath in there anymore. But I have a link at the end in my resources where it shows you the page where you can go to get that InfoPath download. Just note, it is InfoPath 2013. And it is not fully connected to Office. So if you're expecting it to just automatically, once you download it, just automatically get the connection that your Office has, no, you still got to sign in. Okay? You guys know what I'm talking about with the sign in, right? When you sign in to Office. Is everybody good? Okay. So it is the last version. There will be no updates. There will be no new versions. It is what it is, and that's what it is. Okay? Until they kill it. It has rules, data validation, Activex Controls, which are basically like button and list and all those little widgets that you can add to your form. You can do code behind, you have connections that you can do to external data sources. You can also do customized roles and you get it, all of that stuff. You can make your InfoPath form as a standalone form. Meaning most people think that it only can be in SharePoint. How many of you thought that? No? Okay, good. You guys are ahead of the curve. Because most people, they're like, oh, it just makes forms for SharePoint. That's it. No, you can actually make it to just stand by itself in like a file server or a folder somewhere. And when people go to it, they fill out the form and they click submit. And it does stuff, like it sends itself to somebody else for doing something like an approval, or it sends itself to Outlook and it creates a task. I've actually done that. It's a pain in the butt, but it can do it, okay? It can connect to all of Microsoft's Office things, and do something with them, like create a task, something you might not think it could do, but it can do that. It can also connect to XML schemas, some other business systems, and using web services anyway, business applications, Sharepoint, and a few more things. How is it used? Most people use it to make those pretty forms, right? Sharepoint forms are not pretty, right? They're kind of like form, yay, right? You can't like rearrange stuff. You can't put fields next to each other. You can't like add colors. Well, there's a way to do that. There is a way, but I won't tell you because you don't need to know that. If you really want to know, I can tell you how to do that. But you can modify the forms to make them colorful, but you can't like move fields around and stuff like that. You can't add things like a repeating table. It just won't do it, okay? You can make your forms more functional. You can add digital signatures. You could create dashboards with InfoPath forms. I've done that. You make a dashboard where the InfoPath form is just basically pulling data, not being filled out by anybody. You just use the data connection to pull data to it, format it a certain way, and stick it on a page. Maybe stick 5 of them on a page. So that's how I've made dashboards out of it. You can use them as content types. That was my most favorite thing to do once I figured out that's what it could do. I was like, yes. So you mean to tell me I don't have to keep taking this form that I created and publishing it here and there and everywhere when somebody loves it. I could just make it a content type, and you know how content types, you add it to different places and you publish it once and it's changed or updated or whatever. So I love that. It's used in Sharepoint to make 2 different types of forms. There's the list form template in Sharepoint where it customizes the create new, the edit, and the view forms, okay? In the other version of it, there is the form library form. That one actually has to be added to a special library called a form library. Or if you make it as a content type, you can just add it to a document library, but that's if you make it as a content type. The form library form is more complex, or more sophisticated, I should say, than the list form. The list form is connected directly into the list. It does not live anywhere else. It's connected. It cannot part from the list. Okay? On the other hand, the form library form, it actually lives outside the list or the library. It's in InfoPath. You start in InfoPath by creating it there, and then you publish it. You push it into Sharepoint. Okay? And then you can disconnect it, and you can put it somewhere else. Like you can just say, I want to publish it here, and you can just publish it there as long as you know the URL and you have permission to publish it. PowerApps, on the other hand, is the up-and-comer. So it came out around, was introduced in around 2015, announced for public preview in 2016, and then PowerApps and Flow kind of became a real thing. They grew up and became real boys and girls. They're still growing, so they're growing young, scrapping kids now. But it's a software that's kind of like InfoPath in a way, because it has a lot of the same features. The only thing that's missing is XPath expressions. But PowerApps has its own types of coding. That instead of XPath expressions, it has its own little language for coding. Okay, so the code behind stays, but it's really code in, not really code behind, because in InfoPath, you actually had to go to a different page. You could flip, and you would see this whole other different screen. PowerApps, you just go to the fields, or you go to the different form parts of it, and you add the code there. So it's different. Okay, but still code. I should put code available or something. I don't know. I need to figure out a different word for that because it's not really code behind, but it's close enough.
Is it PowerApp has a form load function?
On load, yes. Yep, I'll show you where it is. Just remind me if I forget. It's used to do the same things. Make pretty forms, make form more functional, do digital signatures, build workflow in it. You can build workflow in it too. Some people, I forgot about saying for that for InfoPath, but some people build workflow around your form. I'm more like building it in the form. And the reason why is because I had experience with designer workflows where you know how sometimes the workflow will fire and then 15 minutes later somebody will get the email and you're like, what? If you built it inside of InfoPath directly, then as soon as they hit that button, that email gets fired immediately. So that's the reason why I started doing it. And some people are like, workflow, can you really build a workflow inside of a form? Workflows are just if then. If this happens, then do this. Conditions and actions. That's it. Now, if you wanted to do like permissions, then yeah, you can't do that part. But you can do a lot of the workflow that we all do every day for our customers or our company inside the form. It's a little bit more complicated in PowerApps though. It's not as easy, or at least not as easy for me. I guess because I came from InfoPath. Now I'm like, what the huh? But I figured some things out. All right, PowerApps options for Sharepoint. So instead of the list form, there's this thing called Sharepoint Customize Forms, meaning you just customize the Sharepoint form. It's a little bit different, but it's still connected directly into the list, okay, that it's connected to. Those forms do not show up in the PowerApps gallery, and I'll show you that a little later about what I mean. So when you go to hit an open from PowerApps itself, you won't see your list forms because they live directly in the list. It works only for lists, not for libraries. That hasn't changed, right, April? Okay. Let me make sure, because Microsoft doesn't change some stuff on you. You can't embed them in a page. You have to use the other form, which we'll talk about, and you can't move them between site environments. Even if you were to make a template of the list and you try to move it, it's like still turned on, but then you can't see it, which is dumb. But maybe they'll fix that at some point. Standalone apps. This is your Canvas app and your mobile app. Those two are standalone. So basically just how, like I said, how InfoPath, if you start from the form library form in InfoPath, you can create one that just kind of stands by itself. Doesn't have to be in SharePoint. Same thing, except for it lives in the PowerApps environment. This one works for lists and libraries, and you can embed in a SharePoint page or into Teams. So you can, even in Teams, you can embed a SharePoint customized one, unless that changed. That didn't change, right? I don't think so. Okay. And you can use it anywhere. All right, so now we're about to go into the demo time. And like I promised, there's the links to my last 3 presentations. So even if something bad happens to this video, at least you're covered with this video. You have that. I even have a special piece on my last one that I did. Anybody use a ticketing system like ConnectWise? Do you know what ConnectWise is? It's like a ticketing system that service providers who provide a service for looking after other people's computers, mostly that's what they do. They do more stuff than that, but that's the gravy of it. That's what they do at a baseline. It's a way for them to track all their different customers and what's going on with their different customers' environments and be able to send invoices. It's like a big old thing that helps those types of partners or those types of companies. So in this video, that last video, I have a solution for emailing data that can be emailed to a specific email address for like a ConnectWise or AutoTask or something like that. And then it can pull that data in from PowerApps. And the scenario is that the customer that you're working with, you got to set up a new computer for them. So, you get the name, you get the email address, you get, what kind of computer they want, blah, blah, blah. Other things like you need to add like a phone number for them or something like that you need to set up. Then once they have that app in their environment, and once they hit submit, it gets sent to the email address for that ticketing system and gets pulled in, and then a ticket is opened in the ticketing system. That's basically what that thing does. Okay, so if you're interested in something like that, then there's a good place to look. But I also, in the slides, have the email option for emailing the data. That code, I actually break it down in the slides so you guys can see that. Okay, I'll actually skip to it real quick so you can see. So I show a breakdown for the Office 365 email connector. Its code, how it breaks down, what email you get, how the email comes out based on the code that I wrote, and some notes for you to find out stuff that I found out the hard way. Okay, like creating an infinite loop. I did that, April. You would be so proud of me. Not really. My boss was not. He's like, turn this stupid thing off. I also included code for validating. So you know how in the InfoPath form you could use just the validate rules drop down, and there's one rule for validating email. I have the code for validating email or the phone number. I break that down for you into the Microsoft Docs so you can actually get the full write-up instead of me writing all of that stuff up. With a little bit of a caveat for that match.email down the bottom. And then I kind of break down what the results are for those things and some notes. Okay, so you have those in the back of my slides as well as some reference material. Anywho, let's get to the demoing part. Now, I'm not really going to go into like InfoPath real deep because every time I do that, I run out of time, and I'm going to run out of time anyway because you guys are going to have a lot of questions. I can pretty much guarantee that. Does anybody need me to go over any InfoPath stuff, like just some little basics? You guys know how to format InfoPath forms, you know how to publish them, you know how to publish them in lists, and you know how to publish them to a library. Is everybody good with that? If you're not, the videos actually show that, and I have some deeper videos that I included in the reference from Intro to InfoPath and Intro to InfoPath Workflow. I have my 2 videos from back in the day that I did that are still valid because it has not changed since then. So if you need that, you can go back and watch those videos, and they're pretty detailed on formatting and all of that stuff.
Quick question.
Yes.
InfoPath is only editable in IE11. So
What do you mean?
I think I only can edit InfoPath inside IE11. I cannot edit Chrome or Edge channel.
What you mean edit?
It won't come up in the browser. Yeah.
Were you in Classic View?
Yes. No, even Classic View, I cannot open the InfoPath and then edit for the Sharepoint list. So
Oh, wait a minute. Is your tenant new?
Yeah.
You said you could do it in IE though.
We can do IE11. I cannot do Chrome.
You can only do it in IE11. That's weird. I'd have to look at that because I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, because whenever I update the InfoPath to linked on the Sharepoint list, only IE11 is eligible to update InfoPath form.
Okay. To update it, you mean as in fill out the form?
No, updating means is
oh, do you mean edit it if you're
editing the InfoPath.
Okay, so you mean like you went to the list, and in the list you were in classic mode, and wait a minute, this is not in classic mode. Dang it, you switched back on me. And crap. Oh yeah, I gotta go to the side. Keep forgetting about this hamburger menu. Over here. So you were in classic mode, and you went up to the list tab, and you clicked on customize right there. That's what you meant?
Yeah, I don't think I can do Edge. I only can do IE11, right? Can I do? I never tried.
It should work. I believe it does work, because all it is maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like it's relying on like I think Activex Controls, so something that's like IE Only you Edge and Chromium.
Well, right now I'm in Edge Chromium, but I could have swore I did it from Edge, but I don't know.
This is my question is, do we have last day of I-11 support for Microsoft?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I think that's one of those things that Microsoft, again, is like, a real slow rollback because they heard the screaming from before. Like from Access, there was a lot of screaming. From InfoPath, there was a lot of screaming. So I think because of all that, they're probably just slow rolling it. I haven't seen any dates at all, or them even mentioned.
What about the actual last day of InfoPath from SharePoint Online?
The actual last day is supposed to be January 31st, 2026, I believe.
I think
Now it says that, wait a minute, but actually let me clarify. The last date is that, I think, it might be a different month, like it might be March 31st instead of January. But I believe it's 2026. And the reason why I'm clarifying is because SharePoint Online is different than SharePoint Prem. So if you're in SharePoint on-prem, there's a promise. Okay, there's a promise that that won't budge. At least it has not budged in 2016 or 2019. Now when 2021 comes out, it still shouldn't budge. Because a lot of government is on-prem still, although there's a lot going online too, so maybe that will save it. But it's in the cloud, so we'll see. Like, follow along, it's the cloud, right? So we'll see. I think because a lot of government agencies are now switched over, I'm thinking that will save it. But I can't necessarily guarantee that we'll save it. Now, if you're in a new tenant, and I'll just say this for those of you that might end up creating a new tenant for whatever reason, and you go to try to use InfoPath, you actually got to go to the SharePoint Admin Center in classic mode, go into the last option, which I think is advanced on the left navigation, and, go into the InfoPath part in the SharePoint Admin Center, in classic SharePoint Admin Center, because this is only where it is. Go into the InfoPath part, and then you have to turn allow browser forms. Other than that, you won't see the button. And InfoPath won't be able to connect to it. Okay, so just put that in your back pocket, just in case you need to set up a new environment for whatever reason. Yes?
Migrating from on-prem SharePoint that they had before. That migration to just an online site like that?
Technically, it should. Technically, if you migrate from on-prem to online, it should work. Now, I say should because sometimes things break in the process of being migrated. Now, it depends on what tool you used, how the InfoPath form was created, if there was code behind. If there's code behind, more than likely it's going to break, and it's going to break hard because there's no code behind in SharePoint Online, period. Okay? So it depends. That's the best answer I can give you. It should. It depends. Yeah, you'd have to go back to Classic in order to get to the InfoPath form to be able to edit it, and you have to turn InfoPath form on to be able to even migrate it. So you got to do that turn on first, or that will also more than likely break it.
Just to get to it through the settings.
What? You used to be able to get to what through the settings?
Edit the form. If you don't have the button, if you go to the list settings, and the list settings, and the add settings, there's a spot where you edit the form.
Are you talking about form settings?
No, list settings. So if you go.
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm in Classic. Crap.
Yeah, so if you go to.
If I actually close this thing at some point, I am. And where is the button? Purple? No, not this one. I'm talking about the settings button.
This setting. Right there.
There we go. Okay. I've been so far out of Classic for so long, I forgot what the button looks like. I used to be able to just go on site. Now it's like, what's the button look like?
So there's something in there usually for forms, or I think for the button for the document button, you have to go to advanced, but there should be an option there.
Yeah, are you?
So, yeah.
Yeah, but this form settings, yeah, it does actually let you do the edit there. But since we're going there, because that was one thing I was going to say too, once it goes there, if you've ever wanted to uncouple the form, like you want to scrap it and start over, or you just need to uncouple it because it shouldn't have been there in the first place or something like that, you go to form settings, and here is where you can switch back to default SharePoint form. And if you choose to switch back to the default SharePoint form, it actually gives you the option to delete it when it actually decides to update the page. Oh, wait a minute, here it is. Delete custom form. If it was PowerApps, that link would appear up here. Okay. So yeah, you do have the modify form and InfoPath button right there.
Must have the same.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. All right. Okay, so let me like pull up my notes so I remember the heck I was about to start talking about. Why is this not getting bigger? Okay, I'm gonna have to like, for some reason, like my screen over here is like super small. So I'm gonna be squinting down at this thing, trying to remember exactly what I was trying to say. Any other questions? There is a, one other thing I want to say before we leave list and library, InfoPath forms. There's one other gotcha with InfoPath 2013, the app when you download it. Remember how I was saying you have to sign into it just like you sign into Office, and it's not going to automatically connect even if you are signed into your Office on your computer? There's a gotcha if you guys are using MFA. Anybody using multi-factor authentication? There's a gotcha where it won't let you sign in. It'll just keep saying, sign in, you click it. Sign in, you click it. And then it's like, error. And you're like, what? Because it doesn't say, of course there's no, you need to do, it just is an error. So in the resources, I have a blog that I had done for PowerApps, because you'll have the same issue on PowerApps. It's just, well, you'll have an issue with MFA when you're using PowerApps too, but it's a different thing you have to do than using InfoPath. So I have 2 blogs that I wrote with pictures that'll tell you what you got to do. Okay? One, you got to use the app password for InfoPath. And the other one, you have to just not just click on your little profile that's already showing. You got to hit choose new or sign in with a new profile and then use your same profile. Why? I don't know. But that's the only way MFA will trigger on your phone. Other than that, you'll just keep getting errors, or with PowerApps, it'll just keep telling you sign in, sign in, sign in, and not do anything. Okay, so you guys can read about that. For PowerApps, let's go to this, and now I lost my mouse. There it is. All right. PowerApps 1. Okay. So this one I'm going to use to talk about the list form. So the PowerApps, actually not the list form, the PowerApps SharePoint customized form. Okay. So you notice when I click new right now, it says new item. It's a regular SharePoint list form. If I want to create a new form for, let me cancel that. There's your little PowerApps option, and it has these options on it. Now the first thing most people go to is create an app, because you're like, oh, I want to create a Power App, right? So I want to create an app. You don't want to create an app. That gives you mobile and canvas. So not the same thing. You want to go here to customize form. So you kind of got to say SharePoint list, customize form. SharePoint list, customize form. Okay, you got to kind of get that in your head. Because now I go straight to it. Before I was always clicking on create an app, because it just made sense at first. When you click on it, you get into PowerApps, and hopefully it doesn't. No, you know what? Let me not, because I know it's going to cause that issue. That is not the right login.
Since you're here, is there any way Microsoft get rid of that Pick account?
Is there any way Microsoft gets rid of what?
That Pick account, that stuff.
because some people's have more as accounts than one's accounts. Like me, I have like, I'm not even a partner anymore, and I still got 5.
That's out of 100%.
Well, maybe. There's a lot of people that have multiple
Because
accounts.
my users like hate this stuff.
You should associate,
Yeah, well,
associate that with the Windows account.
yeah, I'm about to say if you
Associate
do.
that login with your Windows account, and it goes away.
I did it, but it still show up like.
If you do single sign-on, it should bypass. But that's extra steps, like a lot of extra steps.
Yeah, my government does not allow me to do that.
Oh, well, then your government's gonna have to just live life like this. Yeah, but you know, you just tell them, you know, unless I can do single sign-on, you know, click that first one that's got your thing on there, and I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, there's no other answer that I can think of that will get past that. And I know Microsoft is not going to get rid of that because there's a lot of people that have multiple accounts. All right, hit next. And then I have to do my LastPass. And then div. And then that one says old, right? This one doesn't say old, right? Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys. I don't want to switch between screens because if I do, then Camtasia is going to get all wonky on me, and then we'll lose the recording. All right, so sign in, and here comes my MFA. Remember how I just said that I couldn't just click on my account that was already there? I had to. Oh, so where's my phone? I had to actually. Act like I was about to sign into another account. And now my MFA fires. If I didn't, then it would not fire. Now ignore that something went wrong. There's something up with Edge Chromium, which is what I'm using right now. It keeps saying that, and then it's like, oh, never mind. I'm just playing. There's nothing wrong. So, once you get into it, then PowerApps does its thing. It's kind of building an app for you just to start off. Just like how when you open up, when you click on the, you're in the InfoPath, you're in the Sharepoint list, you click on the InfoPath form in the list tab, how it opens up and it already has like this pre-form there, and then you can do stuff to the pre-form. This is doing the same thing, and hopefully it does not take forever, which, crap, I got 20 minutes. Okay, let's see how fast I can go through this. All right, so it kind of made the little widget form right here in the back. Let me just close this. There's a little form, okay? Now I can do stuff to this form. Before I start doing stuff to the form, let me just explain this part over here. This is just telling me I have SharePoint integration that's going on, so that connection is already there, just like InfoPath would be for the list form. It's automatically like baked in there. Then I have my screen, the form screen, which is a SharePoint form. I could add additional screens to this form if I wanted to, that maybe pulls data from somewhere else and displays it in that section of the form. I'm not going to, but I could via oh wait a minute, it was on the home too. They put it on the home. It used to only be on the insert. Under new screen, you have a bunch of different screens that you can do, and you can also use a blank screen and just make your own little thing out of it. Okay, we'll hopefully get to data sources if I can move fast enough. But we'll see. If not, again, there's several recordings where I'm able to get a little, the first one I got pretty far because everybody was just like, oh. So there wasn't a whole lot of questions. But the next two I didn't get as far because people had a lot of questions. The wow factor was over. But there's different forms here like the success, different forms here like the success form. The list form, like you would see a listing of SharePoint stuff. That's where you would see that type of thing. A meeting, calendar, a bunch of different options. So I could add an additional form here. I'm just not going to because I'm going to keep this one basic. Because of the SharePoint integration, I can see my fields here. Just like in InfoPath, how you have it on the right side, and here you have it on the left-hand side. where you can see what all of your fields are and them being connected to the SharePoint. Now, what I normally do is I come in here. This has gotten better. Like at first it used to just say like data card 1, 2, 3, which was like, what? Now it at least puts the prefix of the SharePoint's field in front, but it doesn't do it for all the components underneath. So if you're going to be doing like fancy stuff with that field, I would rename these so that they have the prefix in front of it. So when you go to like use it in some code inside of one of the fields or inside of the submit or the onload, it has a name that you're like, oh right, not data card 1, where you're like, what the heck is that connected to? Because you will do that. It's a best practice. It's a pain in the butt though, because you got to do each one individually. There's no way it just automatically just does all of them for you, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes at some point. You have some of the things here like you would have in InfoPath, but of course it's for PowerApps, like being able to modify things. Notice how they are grayed out because I haven't actually chosen something that I could do the text for, like being able to bold it. I could do that on the label. I could do that on the error message, which is that error message underneath of the field. That's another component to that data card. And I can do modification to the fonts of the actual field inside of the data card. Everybody understand what the data card is, right? It's this whole thing right here is the data card. It has components inside of it, like the visible star, which would show up next to the name of the label of the card, of the field that would be in SharePoint. So you could turn it on and off. So normally by default, it's off. So you can't see it. There's the actual field itself that takes the data. And there is the error message. And there's the value, which is the data itself. And the key is something I'm not even going to explain because most of the time you're not going to use it in most of the situations where you're just creating simple forms. So later, if you need to know how to do it, once you get to a more advanced stage, then look it up. It'll be easier for you once you figure some of this other stuff out first. Especially in the interest of time, I want to keep it moving. So if I wanted to like modify this form so I can add like a logo, I can move, first of all, I have to choose the form over here. Not this, because this is the whole white spot. This is the form inside of that white canvas, okay? So once I choose it, then I get the little, I forget what these things are called. The little dots that allow you to modify the length and width of that part inside of the confines of the canvas. Now I can do stuff like go over to the insert and maybe add another label or a button, which I normally put at the bottom, or different text option controls, or just like different controls all together, or galleries, which that's kind of, that's a little bit more complex. I'm not going to go into that either because we don't have a whole lot of time. Or data tables, again, complex, so I'm not going to go into that right now. Media, I'll show that real quick because that might be something that you might use at some point. Note it says image and camera. The image is the one that you want to add like the logo. The camera adds a little camera button where you could take a picture and it gets saved in 2D. That kind of confused me at first because I just looked at the icon. You know how you don't read stuff and you just kind of look at pictures? I just looked at the picture. So if I wanted to add an image, it starts off like this. Now, sometimes it looks kind of weird, like this box. And notice how the ways you expand it and stuff, those little dots are like kind of off of it. Don't worry about that. Once you start modifying it, like you start going like that, then it's like, oh, okay. I remember what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to look normal. You can go over to this panel right here. Anytime you choose something off of this form, there's a panel for it. For the image, up at the top, under, what's that thing say? I forgot. Properties. Yeah, the first one's properties. That's where you change the image. So if I wanted to add an image here, if I find the mouse, here we go. Oh Lord, this is going to drive me crazy. Because it's so light, I can't see it. There's an add image file. Now notice right here it says none. This none would be like if you just wanted to leave it blank. But later, once you add an image, it will be available on any of your other screens. So if you add another image widget, you go back to this drop down, you can just choose it again, which is awesome because it didn't used to do that before. You used to have to upload it every day at one time, which was a pain in the butt. So if I want to add an image, I just click on the new one. I don't know why none's a thing, because who would want none for the image? Why did you even put it there, right? That's what I think. Let me just put this one, just because for the interest of time, I'll just put that there, even though that's like super old. There are times where I like putting things next to or underneath, like the title of the form, what the form is. So in this example, it's pulling in employee name, email address, and phone because it's supposed to collect information about the employee. Okay, so I might want to add a label. And put in it employee info. Did I put it in there? Of course I didn't. I'm gonna go up here because this will make it easier since I'm not able to see it. That's bigger. So there are several options for like inputting stuff sometimes. There's actually going into the label or the field or whatever it is and typing it in. There's going up to, and I can't even remember what the heck this part is called, but it always reminds me of this top part right here. Because of this equals and function, it always reminds me of Excel. Do you know what that's called? The formula. Oh, so it's called the same thing. Formula bar. And you have options for whatever you've clicked on. You have options here like the size, making it strike through, bold, all of that stuff. So you could do it that way. You could choose like options through the home. So since I've got clicked on something that's text, I can actually bold it from here or change the size if you're a clicky person instead of a typey person. Or you can go to the properties and you can do things in the properties. Now sometimes you might be like, I need to do something a little bit more advanced. Where'd my mouse go? Crap. Keep losing my mouse. You might need to do something a little bit more advanced. So you might go into properties and you're not seeing what you look for. You go into advanced and there are more things here. Like that on load and on submit. You'd have to choose the whole form. And then when you go to advanced, it would be in there. No, actually it's under properties.
It's on the left hand, the drop down.
Well, I'm talking about this, so if you go here, no, there it is, on visible, no, not that one. On visible, I'm talking about the on start and the on.
That's in show, but in the app.
You said it's in the app?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm clicked on the wrong, this thing, right?
No, the actual app itself. Right above Sharepoint integration, yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's another thing you freaking changed. Where'd that button come from? Because it wasn't there a second ago.
They added it a few months ago.
Lord. Okay, so now you click on the app now. And then you see on, and it's not there, it's on
Yeah, well,
the...
it's on, you have to do it with the drop down. It's on start by default when you select it. So the formula bar, you can put in like your function there. So if you want to start property,
Yeah, I meant the one that would be here, but yeah, that's a good on start, which I think it used to say on load, and then there was one on submit. I don't know where that went.
On submits and SharePoint integration, but on starts, yeah.
Of course it's in a different spot. Awesome. So it looks like they've kind of separated stuff out. Oh, that's awesome and everything. Okay, so anyway, it's in the bigger parts, so in the app or in the form. Getting back to where I was, the label is kind of crunched up against here. I would like make it bigger and everything, but we are like running out of time. I didn't even get to the second part I was going to talk about. The label, I would normally move it under the image and make it bigger and maybe add some color to it or something like that so it pops out. But sometimes you really want it to be right next to the image. You can change the orientation by clicking on File and going to the app settings. And of course it's not, is it because I didn't, I think maybe it's because I didn't save it. No, this thing is saved. Under the app setting, there was the orientation and size. Oh Lord. Why? I like it now. Huh?
Can you not scroll down? It's like
No, I can't scroll. I can't even see to scroll down. There should be under here, under orientation, the ability for you to change it to landscape or to portrait. And under size, you can choose to either leave it the size that it gives you automatically, which it gives you the dimensions, or do custom. Just try not to, there's a thing that I put in here about don't go over a certain size, because then it just does crazy stuff. It doesn't really do like the dimensions that you wanted. Yes?
I just wanted to check, can you bring in repeating tables into customize
Repeating tables. I haven't played with that yet. But I think that's more like a data source that you'd have to, you would have to bring in. There's no control for that.
A repeating table is essentially a gallery in PowerApps, so that's how you can show the type of that information. So you can pull in your data source, bind it to a gallery that will show the repeating information.
But it's not under controls.
Can you edit in the repeating table? Yeah, values in the repeating table?
Yeah, you can make it editable.
Okay.
So you probably just make up, change them to text boxes and buttons.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the recording, I'm forgetting to repeat all of this stuff. You can add a repeating table. It's not a control that you can just add just like you would in InfoPath, how you had to drop down under the data controls and you could just do it that way. You actually have to add a gallery and connect the data source to it, or create a data source and then add the gallery so you can connect it. And then you can use it to view data that it's pulling, or you can use it to push data in by making it editable. Whew. All right, dang it. I was gonna get into a whole lot more stuff. I'm sorry guys that this is not gone as fast as I wanted to, but good questions. And I have a few things that I wanted to show you. That's why I'm kind of like cutting it off here, because I'm just gonna show you one extra thing. Well, two extra things. And then we'll get to, just because I'm like, this is important stuff for me to show you. So if you go to, did I have it signed in another tab? No. Hopefully it doesn't give me the issue. Just sign in, damn it. Because you were already signed in. If you go to make.powerapps.com in a different tab, then it kind of takes you to this other space where you can see the home, where you can see things that you've created. You get some tutorials for making apps. There is the create button on the side. There's the app button, which actually shows you like your apps that you created, your data sources, flows. This is new, so I don't even know what that is. I'm not going to comment on solutions. On Learn is where you can get to like those actual like videos and stuff like that. They even have like example templates that you can actually tear into and see what they did and then change it for your own uses. You can make it your own. But notice how, remember earlier I was saying if you make a SharePoint customized form, it doesn't show up when you go to see all of your apps because it's connected directly into the list. These say employee info and employee info too, but they are mobile form and Canvas forms. The SharePoint list form does not show up here. Another thing I want to tell you guys real quick is the, oh crap, I'm in the, is this the part I want to be in? Not really. The open allows you to open like a different app, but this right here, sorry, the save as. The save as is some goodness that I didn't even realize was there. Because I tried to use the export that you talked about before, April, and it never worked for me. The other day I used the save as out of a different tenant. I saved my app as a app onto my desktop or on my computer. Then I actually opened from my desktop, and it actually uploaded the form into my new tenant. I was like, magic, that's how things work. Yay. All right, anyway. Moving back to my slides so I can just get the slide stuff in. If I can get my mouse onto the right spot. Okay. So we did some demo. It wasn't as satisfying as I wanted to get into because the Canvas app, the mobile app, again, they're not connected to SharePoint, but you can bring them into SharePoint using web parts, or you can bring them into Teams using the tab. There's some caveats you should know about, but I have it listed in my notes in the back of the slide, so you'll at least have that. But I just wanted to close out by saying InfoPath is like Mike Tyson, right? Powerful, lovable at times, but also scary as hell at times, right? And it's had its day, you know? It's the heavyweight champion of the world, but it's kind of like Mike Tyson. It's kind of getting retired because it's kind of out using its usefulness. It can't do mobile easily. Doesn't look very good on mobile. It doesn't have those connections to a lot of the data services that we need today in the cloud. So it's outlived its time. Anybody watch wrestling? Am I the only one? Okay. So some of you might recognize the New Day. Okay, the New Day is in wrestling. They are like, I never wanted to like them because they're just so silly, but they make you love them. Okay, you can't help it. And they're so cheesy, but you just love the cheese. You just keep eating the cheese. So PowerApps is like the New Day. They're colorful, like way more powerful. Sometimes they're a little hinky and like weird. PowerApps is a little weird, but it's the new thing. It's the up and comer. It's the thing that's going to knock Mike Tyson out the box or InfoPath. So it's a new day. If you guys need any help, the PowerApps.Microsoft.com, the community and the Learn tabs are awesome for you to go to, as well as that Learn tab. If you go under make.PowerApps.com, that Learn tab that was there, also very great resources. You can also feel free to reach out to me, and I will close on that. You'll get the slides. Like I said, I'll update it with the video. If I didn't screw all the videos up, I'll update it with the video. And then I'll update it in the mobile app, so you might want to wait until later to get it. Right now, you'll still have those 3 links, but you won't have everything else that I did today. Yes?
Can you, for the PowerApps for SharePoint library, allow it to put multiple attachments in one field, like a multi-file upload?
Are you saying PowerApps for the library?
If customizing a form for a SharePoint library.
If you customize a form for a SharePoint library.
Is there a feature in it that will let you do multiple uploads, like multiple files at once?
Attachments, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can set up that. You can't customize the document library with the SharePoint.
Okay.
So you can't customize the, what? Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, you can go to SharePoint document library, click customize templates, PowerApps.
Oh crap, that's right. Why do I have that on my slide?
I think you did.
I did. I said it, but oh shit. Dang, I'm sorry. So I said it, I didn't mean it.
Okay, well.
You can't customize, I'm sorry, you can't customize the SharePoint document libraries form with PowerApps, but you can use a Canvas app or a mobile app and pull from it.
But
So,
only read can't like upload the documents from PowerApps. The only way to upload a document is with an attachment control, and then if you wanted to go to a document, you have to have a flow that moves it.
okay, so then you have to do flowy stuff in order to get that to work, but a view works, yes.
You can give us a link on how to download InfoPath?
Yeah, it's in the slides. So the link to download InfoPath is in the reference section of these slides. So if you really want it, huh?
Did you already go by that slide, or?
Yeah, it's in, okay, so it's in, it is in this.
Oh, okay.
So I got a whole bunch of stuff in here,
Okay.
including April's channel, because yeah, April is a great teacher for PowerApps.
I have a question.
Yes.
So say like I modify extensively a SharePoint list with InfoPath. Is there a simplistic way to move that over to PowerApps? If you
Nope.
want to recreate it?
Recreate. You cannot migrate.
I thought so, but I
Yeah.
just asked.
Yeah, you cannot migrate, unfortunately, InfoPath forms into PowerApps.
Okay.
Maybe something like that will happen because the government may squawk loud enough to make, to make that happen easily. My thought is that somebody third party is going to create something to do that. But it might end up being migrated into their forms, not into PowerApps. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, guys.